Hey guys, it's me, your millennial Mima, and today we're going to be having a chat about pantry preparedness. And this is coming from two of my most asked questions. My most asked question is how I got into homesteading and self-sufficiency, and the answer is it started in the kitchen. In my early 20s, mid-20s, I had some chronic health conditions start to develop and pop up, and I was working on managing them as holistically as possible with my healthcare team. And I also was very aware of our globalized food system and how broken and disconnected we are from our food sources. And it was just an awareness, and it was coming from a place of personal responsibility of where I was putting my money, who I wanted to support, where my food was coming from, and wanting to know that I was doing my best to really put myself first health-wise. Because groceries, this kind of leads into what I'm about to say next. Groceries are a variable expense for pretty much every household. And with recent events going on, I got asked a very heavy question, and it was if I had to start over from scratch and I was afraid that I would not have access to food in the upcoming days, where would I start? And I had to pause because it's been a very long time. I have been building my pantry for a number of years. This did not happen overnight, and I want to start with that. I also want to state that I don't have any food allergies, and we're not on any type of special dietary restrictions in our household. But I had to think about where me and my husband started in the kitchen, 8 to 10 years ago versus where we are now. And I wanted to discuss, I wanted to keep in mind accessibility. I wanted to keep in mind storage and longevity. And I wanted to keep in mind versatility. So not just things that are kind of single use or just one ingredient type things. Some of these I know are pretty basic and common sense, but I think when you are in that headspace of food insecurity, or you are worried about rising food costs, or there's a lot of overwhelming feelings coming around food. And I myself have been in that situation, and that's why I'm making this video, is to talk about it. And I'm hoping it will just kind of give you like a clear checklist of where to start. I'm not going to go through my whole pantry today. I'm just going to start with 5 basics and 1 bonus item. If I were to talk about my entire pantry today, we would be here for a very long time. So I'm going to make a whole separate series about how I built my pantry and where I started from the ground up. And hopefully it gives you a starting place, and it just helps you breathe through some of the times we're going through right now. So I'm going to start with pasta. Pasta is very personal. I can make my own. I don't like to make my own pasta, so I just buy this one because it has a lot of protein and a lot of fiber. Those are the 2 macronutrients that I really focus on for me. I feel better when I eat high protein, high fiber. So whenever this brand goes on sale, I buy quite a few boxes at a time. Pasta is something that is quick and it's easy, and it's usually shelf stable. That's hard to say. And you can do it 1,000 different ways, and there's 1,000 different brands. There's 1,000 different kinds. If you have any type of restrictions or sensitivities, you can always find a replacement like chickpea pasta. This just happens to be lentil pasta. The next 2 kind of go hand in hand, and this is rice and beans. When you combine them together, you get a complete protein. Now, if we're talking about longevity and for storage wise, you're going to want to go with white rice. You can buy brown rice in bulk, but you need to keep aware of the dates. It can go rancid and it can go bad faster than white rice. I keep both on hand. I'm actually very, very low on white rice. The other thing with beans is there's a ton of variety of beans, and as you start working from scratch and you start finding things that you like and learn how to make, for example, hummus, I no longer buy store-bought hummus. I make my own hummus. That's because I always have chickpeas on hand. Taco night's a big night in our house. Burritos are a big night in our house. So rice and beans in our burritos. Just simple things like that. I keep about 5 to 7 varieties of beans on hand, but I didn't want to overwhelm you guys with a bunch of jars. So I just pulled out the chickpeas. The third one, which is everybody's favorite, and I get a lot of groans when I say it, but it's oats. In 1 week, I can get 6 different things out of just plain rolled oats. If you are crunched for time and you don't want to bake and learn how to make baked oatmeal, that's fine. Buy the pre-made packets if that's what you like. But I would encourage you to try plain rolled oats because you can make your own granola. You can make oat milk, you can make oat flour. These are especially handy if you do have dietary restrictions and you have to use flour substitutes or dairy substitutes. Those generally come with a heftier price tag. I make baked oatmeal, I make granola bars, and I just really enjoy oatmeal in general, and you can eat it sweet or savory. So don't sleep on oatmeal. But again, for accessibility purposes, if it's just you're trying to grab and go, you don't want to put that much thought into it, there's nothing wrong with buying the pre-made packs if you want that. That's perfectly fine. I've just gotten so comfortable with making my own oatmeal and flavors that it's come second nature to me. But I started with just regular packets of oatmeal, you know, that were like the peaches and cream, strawberry and cream variety. The next one isn't really a meal, it's more of a snack, but sometimes just having a snack makes things better. And that's gonna be popcorn. I don't buy popcorn in a box. You could. I don't buy the ones that go in the microwave. I pop my own popcorn either on the stove or I do have an air popper. I like it because you can flavor it any way that you want. You're not limited on flavors. Sometimes you just need a snack and they can be sweet and they can be savory, and then you have control over the flavorings and the ingredients. And this one I know is not accessible to everybody, but I wanted to include it because I have heard that you can now kind of find them on Amazon or get them shipped to store at like Sam's or Costco. And I think the brand at Costco or Amazon was like Augustin Farms, but these are wheat berries. Wheat berries are the little kernel from the stalk of wheatgrass, and that is what is ground down into flour for baking. You do not have to have a grain mill to enjoy wheat berries. I understand a grain mill is an investment. I'm including wheat berries because if you do have access to a grain mill, that means you have access to making fresh ground flour. That also means you have flour for like an indefinite shelf life. If stored correctly, these last about 20 years, which is insane. You can also just eat wheat berries. They're kind of like beans. You soak them overnight and then you just throw them in your crock pot or on your stove for however long until they're done, and they'll take on any flavor. So you can treat it like oatmeal and do like milk and honey or water and honey or whatever sweetener. You can do it like rice and beans and cook it in broth. You can just kind of cook them plain and then toss them in salad dressing and let them marinate, and they'll soak up the flavor of the dressing. And then if you're into like wheatgrass and like juicing and anything, you can sprout these for wheatgrass. And I actually prefer wheat berries over rice, but there are some recipes where like it didn't work out, like it wasn't really interchangeable. But if you can get them, because it is a whole grain and it actually does have quite a bit of protein and fiber per serving, that's another option as far as making sure you're eating whole foods, good foods, foods that will actually provide you energy and nutrition and that are not just kind of empty or will run out quick, especially like when we're talking in the extent of the cost of like packaged foods. So if I had to start, and that was a very heavy question because I had to really think about it for a minute. If I had to start over again, these are the 5 items: pasta, rice, beans, oatmeal, popcorn. The next video, I will get into things like baking goods or spices, and I will also kind of touch on canned goods and things that I can / things that I buy canned. And then I will also be doing a little bit of a series of a garden pantry and how I set up my garden to benefit my pantry. But I'm hoping this just helps you breathe a little bit. If you are facing some food insecurity issues, don't be afraid to utilize any help that may be available to you. I am a person where I may not be able to help you financially, but you always have a place at my table. I believe in building longer tables and not taller fences. I believe that everybody has a right to good, wholesome food. And I know right now things feel scary and heavy for a lot of people. And if you are having to make those sacrifices, or you are really starting to feel the pinch of just the cost of living, learn new skills. Having these has really put some resilience between me and a very broken system. And so that was really it was a question that made me pause, and it kind of caught me off guard. And it took me a second to really recognize the severity of things, because it's been a while since I've been in that position myself. And I don't like to see other people being in that position, but it's an unfortunate reality. And I'm hoping that providing this information begins to help you feel a little bit more motivated and a little bit more secure in and of yourself in your own home. So I will see you guys for the next pantry chat, probably next week. And I know this was a little heavy today. I just wanted to tell you guys I love you and remind you to breathe and start working on your pantries. And that's coming from your fellow millennial Meemaw. So I'll see you guys next time. Bye.